It was a record-setting performance by Danny O'Neil inside Camp Randall Stadium today. I'm just not quite sure if we feel exactly that it's a record-setting performance, but a win's a win. A win's a win of sorts inside Camp Randall today for a Wisconsin Badgers football program that so desperately needed one. 42-10 win, you're not going to complain about it all too much for a program that hasn't really put the beat down on anybody in any number of recent years. And this is, I think, about as close to what you can. I think this is about the peak of what you can expect from this program now, right? I think Dylan Graff, who should be joining us momentarily here, has said this football program right now is a model of inconsistency. The only consistent thing in this program is inconsistency at this point in time. And that difference between the first half and the second half is exactly what you like. That the first and the second half and the difference between those, that is the stark, most prime, most absolute example of the fact that this program is a model of inconsistency right now, for better or for worse. I think any and all of us who are watching this right now would agree for worse. If you think it was for the better, if you think it was fine, hit the chat right now. We got a poll up asking your grade A, B, C, D on the win. I'm probably thinking it's something like a B, because look, you did score 42 points with your offense. The offense really did pour it on late. I didn't think the defense covered itself in glory either in the first half, but all around it came together late. You did show what you were supposed to do against a lesser program like this, but it wasn't a full 60 minutes, so I just can't give an A. I think ultimately the team probably built itself back up a little bit more with what was probably going to be something of a C or D performance if you take out the third quarter and the drubbing that Wisconsin put in the third quarter overall. A couple of just instant thoughts. This is something where we want to do this, keep it relatively short, and keep our expanded views on the game for after we rewatch, after we write some things over on badgernotes.com, all of that. But kind of immediate takeaways on offense. First, the run game. Wisconsin rushes for 153 yards. This was something of a point of contestation on the internet during the game, on the website formerly known as Twitter, whether the running game was good or bad. They ran for 4.9 yards per carry. We're rushing for over 5 yards per carry late into the game. I think if you take out some of the sack yardage, it looks quite a bit better. If you take out what was a big loss on a poor snap by Kerry Kadenko that goes over Danny O'Neil's head, basically, or not basically, does. There's another snap that nearly went over Danny O'Neil's head, but he has fast hands, apparently. I think those numbers look even better. Probably it gets you close to six yards per carry. Looks fine. I thought the run game was fine. It is of course concerning that Wisconsin showed basically no ability to run between the tackles for most of this game. There were times Wisconsin ran between the tackles incredibly effectively. The 1 yard touchdown run by Dylan Jones at the goal line, where Joe Brunner pulls and just finishes through a block with authority. That was great. That was the C opening for him. You had a big run by Darian Dupree. He had a long 14-yard scamper. That also looked good, and that was also between the tackles. But for the most part, your big runs came on first, a Tretch Kekahuna 61-yarder for a touchdown. Tremendous performance. But also a Vinny Anthony 14-yard run, an 8-yard scamper by Danny O'Neil. A lot of your run game came from the wide receivers. Wisconsin played through its wide receivers for a lot of this game. As Dylan Graff joins us, we're going to bring him in just a moment. I can do it. Hey, Dylan, how you doing?
Not too bad. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Dylan coming from Camp Randall Stadium, and I was just about to get in. I was talking about the run game, how it is concerning this team doesn't appear to run through the tackles very effectively right now, but it can run to the outside from the wide receivers. And there's nobody who complimented the wide receivers better than one Danny O'Neal today. And we're going to celebrate that in 30 seconds.
It's Danny Slime Week.
Danny Slime, baby.
Okay.
Danny Slime, dude.
So I saw someone say Danny Dimes and I almost vomited. He's Danny Slime forever to me.
When I read Danny Slime, the very first thing I think of is the hair.
He was on the sideline doing different handshakes with everybody.
Danny Slime.
Danny Slime.
We're getting rid of the Danny Slime nickname.
We were riding high on Danny Slime.
Danny Slime.
Catch tutters from slime. They're just sliming.
Sliming all over you, dude.
Give me 69 in the slime time. They got a whole week to give slime a plan.
With Danny Slime. Slime time.
Danny Slime. Danny Slime.
Just win, baby.
Just win, baby. They did. And when you put up a new program record with 283 passing yards in your first ever start for the Wisconsin Badgers, yeah, you get a cut up of Danny Slime Danny Slime clips. Dylan, Danny O'Neal today. Your thoughts?
I think ultimately you can't ask for much more. I mean, hell of a debut, 23 of 27 for 283 yards, 3 scores. Did have a pick on a ball that was probably should have never been thrown realistically. And I mean, I think you could probably point to maybe much like last week, 2 other scenarios where very easily could have had interceptions as well. But that's just being nitpicky. I mean, ultimately he delivered today. There were a couple of times where I think that he could have had some walk-in touchdowns that he missed, but still ended up kind of finding that second or third read and then ending up being able to convert, generating some big plays. I think that was super encouraging. There were a few errant snaps today, and I think that he recovered from realistically all of them pretty well. I want to give him his credit for that. But I think what you're seeing, the difference between QB2 this year and last year is just one word. It's confidence. And Danny O'Neal has that in spades, and that's something Braden Locke did not have, and this team did not have in Braden Locke. And so I was really encouraged today. I understand it was an inferior opponent, but ultimately, you like the way this team bounced back in the second half, and O'Neal, he led him.
Absolutely. And I thought of everybody, because I don't think the defense covered itself in glory in the first half either. I thought from half to half, Danny O'Neal was probably the most consistent player on the field. I think you could probably find somebody. Joe Brunner had an excellent day, but if you're putting together a list of a handful of guys who you thought really did put together a full 60 minutes for you, O'Neal's probably up there.
Absolutely. I think that you have to point to him, maybe a guy like Vinny Anthony, who I think had quite a decent amount of all-purpose yards, kick returns. He had that rushing touchdown. He had a few times in the passing game where what I love about Vinny is you get him the ball, he plants his foot, and he gets moving forward. He kind of runs like a running back, and I love that. But no, I totally agree. Danny O'Neal was a model of consistency today, and I don't really care what the level of competition is when it's your second string quarterback and a patched together offensive line in front of him that I think absolutely took some time to gel and to come together, and credit to them maybe a little bit. No penalties today as a football team. I think that really stood out to me as well. And when you had so many moving parts on the offensive line, that's notable.
It was. I think what is also notable, and yeah, it's center. There are unique difficulties with that. I do think it's notable that for the guy that is probably your number one replacement at all 3 interior positions, at least 2 of them, Kerry Kadenko did not look good today. Go ahead. You seem to have thoughts.
No, I just want to make sure that Fickle's presser is not too loud here in the background that you can hear me. But
okay.
No,
play well.
Is that too loud?
Have time to make some of those adjustments. I think we would.
Yeah, we can definitely hear it. It's a little loud, but I think talk through it for now.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, Kerry Kadenko steps in. I didn't really exactly see a Jake Renfro injury in the cards initially. He had at least 3 errant snaps today, and that was obviously a concern. But I mean, he is in my eyes, unequivocally your second best option at center. It's what it's got to be. I think what was notable is Colin Cubberly steps in at right guard. They held an open competition during the week, and the fact that he's the one who rolls in, and I know that Fickle talked about maybe, wanting to potentially play up to 7 guys. And I think that they really kind of found a little something with the group of 5 that they started with. And so I think that was fairly encouraging. Ultimately their inability to move bodies in the run game was a big concern. But I think one thing that stood out to me just in terms of maybe kudos to Jeff Grimes was I appreciated his process when it came to play calling. I know they did not execute. They didn't move bodies in the run game, but he also found a counter. He, got the receivers involved in the run game. And that's something I think we're going to see every week, not just this week. And that was able to really supplement what they needed on the ground. And so I think that was an element we wouldn't have seen a year ago.
Yeah. Dylan, I'm just going to mute you between times when you're speaking. But I think what I've seen the last couple of weeks is there are just very obvious examples of when something's not working. Jeff Grimes does very well to get to the play off the play. There was the 18-yard scamper on 3rd and 9 by Danny O'Neal last week where you go to the option play with Trech Kakahuna on the jet and Danny O'Neal runs for the first down. And then there's the Tyrell Henry receiving touchdown in this one where you went to him on the jet earlier in the game. And then he fakes the same motion, kicks back out to run a route, and he's left like as wide butt cheeks open as you possibly can be in the corner of the end zone, and he delivers. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Wisconsin fans should be pretty satisfied with the process of Jeff Grimes so far. On the opposite side of the ball, Dylan, big takeaways defensively for Wisconsin in this game.
Yeah, I would say that my big takeaways were, number one, all 3 of our starting corners today allowed explosive plays. That was a concern to me, because it was each single one of them in different moments. And so that was problematic. I think that maybe this is sometimes something we have seen with Mike Tressel's defense is they did adjust really well in the second half. It was they gave up like 146 first half yards. Middle Tennessee only had 153 last week. So where I was sitting initially, I was like, what is going on here? And they ended up holding them to 95 yards in the second half. First half, they gave up 5.2 yards per play. Second half was 3 yards per play. They adjusted. I guess ultimately that's all the more you can ask for. I don't think I learned a lot today as a whole. The pass rush was, I think that this stat sheet maybe reflects a little bit better than I felt, and I don't know if that's fair. They had like 8 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and it didn't feel
I think they looked really poor in the first half. Like they weren't doing anything in the first half. And I think that's another part of the game that absolutely turned it on in the second half. But yeah, the defensive front, I felt the same way as you, as I was like preparing to go live, as I was writing some stuff for Wisconsin Badgers on the side. And I was just like, oh, the pass rush, like the defense is actually putting up some numbers here. And it just felt like they weren't doing anything for a while. But I think it came back around and kind of corrected itself late.
Yeah, I would agree completely. I think they really settled in. The defensive line, it felt like opened up a lot of opportunity for the linebackers to make some of those plays.
Yeah. Christian Allegra and Tackett Curtis, again, dudes.
Absolutely. That athleticism is shining through. I think that with a quality defensive line in front of them, and I guess we're going to find out for sure if this is that, although I feel much better about them. They are guys that absolutely can make plays, can chase people down, have the type of speed that is probably not at middle linebacker for a lot of teams. And so ultimately, I think I feel really good about what's possible there. And we even got to see a little bit of the young guys at the end behind them. And I think that the future looks pretty good too.
It does. Christian Allegro, 6 solo tackles today, 2 TFLs. Tackett Curtis had a great sack where he just was faster than anybody else on the line and just ran from the opposite side of the line all the way over basically to the other sideline to sack the quarterback behind the line. He is really impressive, has been really impressive. The one group I said on yesterday's show that I wasn't sure we were going to learn a ton about in this game was the defensive backs. I think, unfortunately, we learned that they can get got more than I think we thought they could by wide receivers who are like, okay. The guy who burned, what is it, Deani Hill and Rico early in the game. I like, that's a JUCO transfer, and not to diminish JUCO transfers, but like, that's a guy Ricardo Holman should not be getting simply out muscled by on what was clearly a 50-50 ball, and he made it look like it was a 75-25 ball at best. I didn't think that was very impressive. Dylan, I know we're going to try to get you out of here so you can get to interviews relatively quickly. The decision to do nothing at the end of the first half. I know we have asked certain questions about Luke Fickell and timeout calls and clock management, and there's questions about, is that on the offense? Is that on whatever? That's probably the worst that we've seen in his time here. You have a full minute with the ball. You're only up 4 and 3 timeouts. That's like, that's nearing, without editorializing, I mean, all too much, that's nearing levels of like inexcusable clock management. That's really bad. And if Wisconsin doesn't have the second half that they do, he gets torched over that decision.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a poor example because we are far from the team I'm about to talk about here, but I don't know if you remember last year against Alabama, it was a very similar set of circumstances. And they had like 37 seconds with those amount of timeouts, and they went down the field in like 2 or 3 plays. And while I know that we weren't maybe going to be doing that, not taking those chances, not trying to go get 3 points, out of that, I think you just can't be this conservative in those moments when things are just not going your way. Because like you said, with the benefit of hindsight, it can be forgivable. But if there were a different set of circumstances, like, what are we doing here?
Your kicker is the program record leader in 50-plus yard field goals. Like, all around the process, I'm sure somebody down there is asking about that right now. I'm sure. Otherwise, I will on Tuesday. But like, I don't know what the defense for that is other than Danny, he just threw a pick. We didn't want to rattle them more. We just wanted to regroup. But also, like, regroup for what? To then have Middle Tennessee go on a 12-play, 6.5-minute yard drive to open the second half, which, oh, by the way, is exactly what happened.
Yeah, I really don't think there was an excuse there. And I think more than that, even my greatest frustration today was a couple of different instances on special teams again. And I feel like I could probably copy and paste that comment more weeks than I can't. But a couple of misread balls by, Tyrell Henry. There was the first punt of the game that was returned by Middle Tennessee for, I don't know, 15 yards, more than that or something.
Yeah,
we had 3 guys that were there and just everyone was around him and didn't. Another inexcusable moment where, like, if they want to play this complimentary football they're always talking about, well, then you're going to have to do it in, tip the cap to Ryan Allers, all 4 phases ultimately, but they took off phase number 3, and that just continues to be a consistent theme that I'm getting frustrated with.
Yeah, for the guy in Matt Mitchell who is supposedly here because he is the special teams savant. They're approaching a, what are we doing here? Because that's stuff that just has to get cleaned up and just should not happen. Very odd. Dylan, any burning thoughts you want to get off your chest before we get free to go down and talk with guys in the locker room?
We got a tight end, man. Lance Mason, what a day. I mean, the athleticism is obvious. The game plan was different this week, and so it lent itself to more opportunities to him, but targeted 8 times, 7 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown. 50 of those yards came after contact. Like, what a day, what a player. Like, obviously outmatched the opponent athletically, but ultimately I think those tools translate pretty well no matter who you're playing, and give you an opportunity. And And so I think that they found something in him today, and definitely got to make that concerted effort to get him the ball, because if he and Tretch together in different ways can do some things for you over the middle, I think that opens things up on the outside a whole lot, which in and of itself is going to give the run game a better opportunity if the offensive line can come together. I just really impressed with Lance Mason today. Excited to see how maybe they build on that performance moving forward against a real opponent.
There's a chance that the program has a real receiving threat at tight end for the first time since Jake Ferguson, who is like about to move on to his second NFL contract. So that would be quite a turnaround. He just incredibly impressive today. A willing blocker, but a guy who gets open downfield, can shake guys off, can really move, has a little bit of a burst of speed. You top that with some of the flashy moments that Grant Steck had in week 1 as well. And maybe not the best time for Tucker Ashcraft to get injured if he wants to make sure he has a role at this program, because your opportunities in football, where you only play 12 games, are few and far between. And there's not a lot that he's put on tape here in Madison.
No, I think that's incredibly true. I mean, ultimately, I don't know if that he's eclipsed 100 yards either of the seasons, that he's been utilized the way he has. And I know he was forced into playing earlier than I think anyone would have preferred, but Lance Mason is very clearly a capable player. I don't know how much he eats into it, but Grant Steck has done some things with his opportunities. And obviously those are kind of different tight end roles in this offense. Ashcraft and Steck are maybe more one and the same. And there's a lot of different ways you can use Jackson Aker as well. But I do.
Who converted a 3rd and 1 on a fullback dive today?
Yeah, that felt so good. That just felt right. Felt like I was back in God's country, and that's important. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm like, that I feel like our tight end room is really good, because, the past 2 years have been absolutely anemic, but to feel like there's life, to feel like that we get to have a discussion. I mean, he put up basically half of a year's worth of production under for a tight end room at Wisconsin the last couple of years. I think they only as a room averaged like 230 yards receiving each of the last 2 years. So like today felt good. It's a huge step in the right direction. And I think they've got guys that do have more complementary skill sets in an offense like this. And I feel really good about that.
Lance Mason today had 7 catches for 102 yards in Tucker Ashcraft's 2 seasons in Wisconsin. He has had 8 for 86 and 12 for 82. That's where we're at. Okay, Dylan, it sounds like Fickle wrapped up there, so we'll let you get down, talk to guys. And otherwise, thanks for jumping on. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon, man. Have a good one.
There, Dylan. Okay, that was Dylan Graff, our owner of BadgerNotes.com, owner, publisher extraordinaire, as I struggle valiantly to change this layout for the stream. But yeah, I think he and I touched on just about everything that we wanted to. I mean, I didn't get a chance to ask him his final grade for the show, which I think would be the only thing that I would want to ask him. But ultimately, I think qualitatively, he and I are thinking about this game in the same manner. A good win, and now you get to figure out what this team really is as it prepares to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. I don't know. I think it's very hard to tell what this team is at this point in time based on the 120 minutes of football that we have watched this team play. It's also hard because you don't exactly know who the starting quarterback is going to be. I imagine Danny O'Neal is going to get the start next week. That would be my guess. You don't know who your starting center is going to be. I have no idea of knowing what that is. I look forward to finding out what it is that Luke Fickell said in his press conference. I'll be going and getting that transcript as soon as I get off of here. But otherwise, a solid win by Wisconsin. They got a much taller task ahead of them next week at Alabama, and you can't put together the 30 minutes that they put together to open the game against Middle Tennessee today if they hope to beat the Crimson Tide next week. We'll be back after I do a rewatch of sorts on this game. We'll put something into your feed tomorrow. Be back to talk show on Monday. with some thoughts on whatever we learned from Luke Fickell's press conference on Monday morning. Tuesday, we'll be back. Tuesday or Wednesday for After Dark this week. And then some thoughts, hopefully, that we get out of player interviews. We'll hit Seamus Says, and hoping to get a colleague from the Alabama beat on, so we can put that into your show on Friday before Wisconsin plays in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. That's the week ahead. This has been Talkin Badgers. One more time for a guy that maybe we didn't even give enough airtime to here on Danny O'Neill, who, man, if he could have one pass back, he had 4 incompletions, and one of them was a ball he just overthrew for another touchdown to Tresh Kekahuna. Got to have that. Wide open play. Got to have that. Could have been 4 touchdowns on 24 of 27. Instead, he's 23 of 27 for 283. 3 tutters, as Ryan would call them, and 1 pick. Slime time. Let's take us out.
It's Danny Slime Week.
Danny Slime, baby.
Okay.
Danny Slime, dude.
So I saw someone say Danny Dimes and I almost vomited. He's Danny Slime forever to me.
When I read Danny Slime, the very first thing I think of is the hair.
He was on the sideline doing different handshakes with everybody.
Danny Slime.
Danny Slime.
We're getting rid of the Danny Slime nickname.
We were riding high on Danny Slime.
Danny Slime.
Catch tutters from Slime. They're just sliming.
Sliming all over you, dude.
Give me 69 in the Slime time. They got a whole week to give Slime a plan.
With Danny Slime. Slime time.
The Danny Slime. Danny Slime.